Woman from California seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and pass the bill S-450, the Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley Congressional Gold Medal Act, sponsored by Senator Burr.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Senate 450, an act to award posthumously the Congressional Gold Medal to Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentlewoman from California, Mrs. Waters, and the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days within which to revise and extend their remarks on this legislation and to insert extraneous material thereon.
Without objection.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
I rise in support of S-450, the Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley Congressional Gold Medal Act, which is a companion to a House bill sponsored by Representative Rush. This bill will provide for a Congressional Gold Medal in commemoration of 2 very important figures in our American history and heroes of the Civil Rights Movement, Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley. It was not long ago that Emmett Till, a 14-year-old African-American child from Chicago, visited his family in Money, Mississippi. Shortly after his arrival, he was kidnapped, beaten, mutilated, and shot in the head. His murderers then sunk his body in a river with a cotton gin fan tied around his neck with barbed wire. Mamie Till-Mobley, Emmett Till's mother, expressed both love and heroism in the face of the unthinkable, ensuring that her son's body was brought home to Chicago and insisting that his funeral be open casket. She ensured that Emmett was dressed in his Sunday best and that nothing else about his body was touched so that people could see the violence that had been perpetrated upon him and bear witness to the horrors of lynching. Mamie issued an open invitation to her young son's funeral. 50,000 people heeded the call and were moved by the devastating effects that racism, prejudice, and hate had on Emmett's body, and the very life she allowed Jet Magazine to photograph Emmett in his casket, ensuring that all of America would have an image of her son to galvanize a nation against the horrors of lynching and illuminate the need for the civil rights of all. Representative Rush was 8 years old when Till was lynched and murdered, and he has said that one of the sharpest memories of his childhood is the image of Mamie Till-Mobley looking at her son's body in Jet Magazine. Mamie Till-Mobley's bravery was a fomenting force for the civil rights movement, paving the way for subsequent advocacy to increase racial equality, including the Montgomery boycott. While we still have a long way to go to ensure racial equity, we owe a great deal of progress to the bravery and sacrifice of Mamie Till-Mobley and the way that she honored her son's life. Representative Rush represents Illinois' 1st District, where Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley reside. While Representative Bush has been in office, their house has become a national landmark. Representative Rush is also the sponsor of H.R. 55, the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, which was signed into law earlier this year and makes lynching a federal hate crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. Due to the absence of this and other federal and legal protections, Emmett Till's murderers served no time in prison for their crimes. I'm so appreciative of Representative Bush's dedication to Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley and his work to ensure that lynching is recognized as a federal crime and that the Tills are honored for their bravery and legacy. I'm pleased to be able to vote yes for this bill before Representative Bush's retirement at the end of his term. And I want to congratulate him on this accomplishment. And I urge my colleagues to support this very important Congressional Gold Medal bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
I thank the Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of S-450, a bill that will award long overdue the Congressional Gold Medal to Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley. It's a pleasure to be on the House floor with Chair Waters to speak in favor of this bill and its strong bipartisan support. On August 28, 1955, a 14-year-old African-American boy was brutally murdered while visiting family in Money, Mississippi, based on nothing more than an accusation that he had flirted with a white woman 4 days earlier. This boy's name was Emmett Till. The way Emmett was murdered by the woman's husband and brother are far too gruesome to describe here or in the findings of this bill. But they left a scar on America's history in a way that we will never forget. When Till's body was found, it was so badly disfigured it was nearly unrecognizable even to Emmett's own family. The only clue they had to identify him was an initialed signet ring. And as it happened far too often during this period in our history, authorities tried to expedite his burial to try to make the incident go away. Yet Emmett's mother, as so eloquently described by Chair Waters, Mamie Bradley, insisted that her son's body be sent home to Chicago, where he could be properly memorialized. She knew that it was only through her son's mutilated body that the world could truly understand the evil that was perpetrated on her son. I cannot begin to imagine how difficult this decision was for her at that time with those feelings. But it was this decision that prompted Jet Magazine to publish the photo of Emmett, and it was this decision that ultimately led mainstream media to shine a light on the story. I wish I could say that those who murdered Emmett Till were brought to justice. But sadly, and most unjustly, less than 2 weeks after Emmett's body was buried, an all-white jury deliberated for less than an hour and issued a not guilty verdict. This despite the fact that there was ample eyewitness evidence to the contrary. Despite a lack of immediate justice for this brutal murder, Emmett's mother, Mamie, never stopped drawing attention to her son's murder. As demonstrated by all of us here today, the Till trial brought to light the brutality of the Jim Crow South. Mr. Speaker, S-450 will honor Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley for the injustice that they suffered, the bravery shown in the aftermath of this terrible incident in American history. So, Mr. Speaker, I support S-450, and I urge my colleagues to support it as well, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlewoman from California is
I
recognized.
yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Davis.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlelady from California for bringing this bill to the floor and giving me the opportunity to comment on it. I rise in strong support. I grew up across the river from Mississippi in the state of Arkansas. I happened to be the same age as Emmett Till when he was murdered. I was 14, he was 14. Then I had the opportunity to work with his mother, Miss Mamie Till-Mobley, who lived in Chicago. The church, Robert's Temple, is now in my district, where his funeral was held. So I've always felt close to the situation. and have always felt a part of it. Miss Mobley, Emmett Till-Mobley, Emmett's mother, was a premier activist in Chicago. She lived in Bobby's district, Congressman Rush's district, but she was all over the city, all over the country, all over the world.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Hoping to bring attention to a situation. I thank you and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Gentlewoman from California is recognized.
I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentleman from
Mr. Speaker,
Arkansas.
I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman is recognized. A gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'm prepared to close, so the gentleman may use his time to close.
Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized to close.
I thank the Speaker. I want to encourage my colleagues to support S-450. I want to thank my friend Mr. Davis of Parkdale, Arkansas, for his testimony, a great city in our southeast corner of Arkansas, and thank Chair Waters for her passionate support of this bill. This is a bill that has the universal support of people on both sides of the aisle. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge our colleagues to all support S-450, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers, and I'm prepared to close, and I reserve the balance of my time. Mr. Hill has closed, and he now yields to me.
Gentlewoman is recognized to close.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of the time. I appreciate Representative Rush's dedication to ensuring that Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley's legacy and bravery are honored and remembered with this bill. This Congressional Gold Medal bill will allow the American people to pay tribute to these brave individuals who catalyzed the civil rights movement and stood up against racial injustice in the face of immense hardship, and without whom we would not be here where we are today as a country that continues to work toward racial equality for all. Again, I want to thank Representative Rush for championing this important bill. And I'd like to just add that, yes, I remember when it took place. I was 16 years old at the time. The parents and the leaders of our community made sure that all of the children in our communities, in our schools, in our churches knew what had happened. And they made sure that we understood what was going on in this country at that time. And we're never to forget what happened to Emmett Till and what happened to so many others when lynching was a way of life. And so I'm very pleased that Mr. Rush has championed this important bill. And I urge all of my colleagues to support it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate 4